Okay, this one's not going to be an all singing, all dancing presentation, so it's not going to appeal to the kids and the strap on fans, but it's just going to address the simple notion of what constitutes match fixing and sport fixing. Because what people do not realise is that even this notion presented by the show of all teams agreed to end under green conditions is match fixing. They don't realise that. The media has presented that notion as if it's normal and if it's a valid excuse, when actually, as soon as you break rules to achieve that, that constitutes fixing. And it's a simple case of people don't understand. They've been presented with it a certain way by media, and therefore they accept it. And that in itself is a narrative. And yet, the people that have received it and have accepted it don't understand that's just not acceptable. That constitutes a crime. No doubt we'll get people in the comments section that won't understand what I'm saying, but will want to argue in the comments because of something that they think. But as soon as you contrive an outcome in a sport, you get into the realms of sport fixing. So that's illegal. What we were told by the media, and it seems to be true. Now I don't believe the media because they lie so much. But what we were told after the event, and let's be clear, it was only after the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix that we started hearing, oh well, all of the teams agreed beforehand that ideally we'd want to finish under green conditions. Okay, and a lot of people have picked up on that and said, and that's what you'll hear in the comment section. Oh yeah, but all teams wanted to finish under green, so that's okay. Yeah, because all the teams agreed to finish under green, so that's okay. That's a crime. As soon as you manipulate rules to accomplish that, that's a crime. But you don't understand. You don't understand the nature of it because it's been presented to you as if that's okay, and it's not okay. This desire, that agreement, did it take place? Well, the evidence would suggest that it did take place. The evidence of their conduct, the team's conduct in those last 5 laps, would suggest that at some point in time before the race, there was a get together of the teams and a proposal put forward to suggest to the teams that with a huge audience watching that probably didn't understand the sport and probably wouldn't have understood what was going on if that race ended behind a safety car. If it did, some people would see that as being a anticlimactic finish to this event that's been built up as being this amazing decider of an event. So, wouldn't it be better if it would be better, ideally, if this race ended in green conditions? Somebody can suggest that notion, and by suggesting that notion, yeah, we can see that point. We can see the point that you are making in that if people were to witness things playing out that way, some people would be, deflated, a bit turned off by it, and maybe think this isn't the sport that I want to continue watching if they're new to it. For those fans that have been fans of the sport for a long time, they know that it's a possibility. If a safety concern occurs, it is what it is. So it seems likely that that conversation took place, and the teams all understood that yes, we can understand what you're saying, that that conclusion to the event could result in some of the fans being a bit underwhelmed by that ending to the event. So you get this notion of where possible, and again this is the key. Where possible, it would be ideal to end under green conditions. And teams would all nod their head and go, yeah, well, we can see the advantages of that. The advantages being that if we are able to retain an audience, that's beneficial. And obviously, if the spectacle of the event is such that it engages that audience, it's more likely we're going to retain an audience. So what you have is effectively an outline agreement that's a common desire that benefits everybody, and it seems highly likely that that has taken place. But what does that mean? It means nothing, because you can't contrive that. And let me give you this example. If you've got the World Cup final between two teams, if those two teams have a chat before the game and say, oh, everybody in the world, we're going to have the whole eyes of the world watching us, and they'll be really excited if this becomes a penalty shootout, because everybody is on the edge of their seat when it comes to a penalty shootout. Wouldn't it be great if this game becomes a penalty shootout? And both teams go, yeah, that would be a good ending, because that would be really exciting for everybody. And also, if we're paid by advertising money, if some of our bonus is paid to us by the amount of advertising money that we get from this game, if that game goes into extra time and then penalties, there'll be more adverts in between the end of full time and extra time, and then the half time of extra time. There'll be more adverts there, so we'll get more money. So if we make sure that this game ends up in a draw, and then extra times ends up in a draw, so if whether both teams just either don't score, or if one scores, the other team lets the other score to make it a draw, then we'll make sure it goes to penalties, and then we'll have that excitement of a penalty shootout, and everybody will be really excited by the outcome. Then teams have fixed the outcome of the game. Now there'll be people that jump up in the comment section and go, oh yeah, but you don't know the outcome of the penalty shootout. That's not the point. You've contrived something. You only need to look at spot fixing in cricket, where bowlers are purposefully bowling no balls. That doesn't actually directly impact what the end result of the game is, but what you are doing, you are purposefully contriving certain events within a sport. And that is fraud, that's corruption, that is sport fixing. And so, contriving something to say, if you take this back to Formula One, we've got a desire that the ideal scenario would be this race ends up in a green condition. Okay, that's in theory is a nice desire, a theoretical desire. That would be an ideal if it can happen, but it can only happen in accordance with the rules of the sport. You can't break the rules of the sport to achieve that. Otherwise, you're guilty of fraud, you're guilty of fixing. And if a safety incident occurs, which requires the rules of the sport to be applied, regulations, procedures to be enacted in order to deal with that safety incident, you can't go breaking the rules of the sport to create a finish, because in doing so, you are contriving an outcome. And in doing so, actually what they did in not only breaking the rules to contrive the setup, the manipulation to create a last lap shootout in that event, they did that knowing the skewed nature of the contest that they were creating at that point in time. So they knew that what the outcome of that event was going to be. That's race fixing. And because of the way it's been presented, because of the manner in which it's been explained to people, people just think, oh yeah, this is normal. Teams wanted to end under green, so they can end under green. No, that's not how it works. You can't do that. So how it worked in Formula One. This is how it seems to me at this stage, how it worked in Formula One. They had this chat, they had this outline agreement. It's likely that somebody like Greg Maffei from Liberty Media would have sat down with all the teams, okay, the money men at all the teams, the CEOs, and said, look at the sport, look at the increase in audience we've had over this year. and look at how that's affected your values of your teams. It's going in a positive direction. The value of the sport's increasing. The exposure, the global audience is increasing, and this is going in a good direction. We want to continue this. So we don't want this event to end as a bit of a damp squib if it ends under a safety car. So, ideally want a racing finish to this end, don't we? Yes, and everybody goes, yes, that seems like a good plan because this is benefiting us all financially. So teams kind of accept that. So there may be a proposal put forward. Okay, if we need to, at the end of this event, if we need to get this, if there is a late safety incident, if we need to get this going by, even if we have to leave lapped cars in situ, just to make sure we get this race going, just go with it because we want to make sure that this race ends under green conditions. It'd be something along those lines, and the teams would go, yeah, okay, we won't call it out. We'll just go with whatever the race director says and ensure this finishes under green. Okay, because we don't want people to be disillusioned. So, having got this kind of outline agreement between all of the competitors, it's likely that then becomes open to manipulation from Red Bull, from the FIA, from Sky Sports, from F1 TV. And that is, right, if there is a late safety incident and we can, if, for example, we're not winning and there is a late safety incident, we can make sure we set our car up to be in the best possible position to win, and then we'll get the race started again. So we can put our driver onto these soft compound tyres when the other driver can't do that, and then we'll get the race going again and we're in pole position to win it. And F1 TV, rather than show viewers what's really going on, they are keeping viewers disorientated to set up the notion that anything can happen. We still could see some racing. You have Sky Sports lying about the rules to again disorientate the viewers, to make people think anything can happen. We could still see some racing. We've got all the teams playing their part because as it's unfolding, none of them are calling out the fact that, oh, actually, unless the lapped cars are released on this lap 56, then we're going to see a safety car finish because that's what the rules dictate. What they're all saying is, oh, well, we might get restarted like this. Oh, we're still thinking that they might resume the race like this. Yeah, we're expecting this to happen. Well, you wouldn't expect any of those things to happen because they're not within the rules of the sport. But that's what you're saying to your drivers and making that seem normal and making fans believe that, oh, are we going to see this? Are we going to see that? This is what the sport has done. The entire sport did that. And then we've got this so-called human error by one guy that's been set up to take the hit for that. There's at least 10 people in FIA race control, and they know the rules and they know the implications of the rules. So it's not just a human error. It's not just one guy under pressure. It's not just Christian Horner on the radio. That Christian Horner radio message was a scripted thing. That was there, put in place to direct your attention, make you think that, oh, Red Bull are coming up with a solution where we can get a race still. Why doesn't he do that? The rules are broken. We saw what took place with that race restart and the result that took place there. And then the FIA, they didn't apply the rules of the sport. They just went, yeah, that is possible for the rules of the sport to be interpreted this way. The governing body of the sport, this is how corrupt it is. The governing body of the sport, rather than look at, well, they fixed it themselves. They fixed it themselves. And then rather than go, yeah, actually, we fixed it, we went, no, that's how the rules can be interpreted. That's what they did. If people don't see that, and anybody that keeps going, oh, we need to take this to the FIA. We don't need to take this to the FIA. The FIA are the fucking corrupt party. They're the fraudsters, and they're the ones that get held to account by a higher authority. And they seem to present themselves as saying, no, we're the governing body. Nobody can hold us to account. We're our own law. No, you're not. You are subject to the same laws that we are subject to. You're not. You don't make your own fucking set of rules that you decide to punish yourself or not, or think that you're exempt from the rest of the rules that need to exist in this world to prevent crime. You're guilty of a crime. So what this is, this campaign is not to say, oh, we're going to take this to the FIA to get them to change their minds. No, the FIA need to be taken down, legally taken down, and that should be a criminal case. Okay, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, the criminal agencies, that what should be the police, the UK Serious Fraud Office, Interpol, the FBI, they're not touching it. And that in itself hints at corruption. Why are you not touching it? Is it because of the money involved? Is it? Well, I'm pretty certain it is. It's the money involved. I'm pretty certain the reason the UK Serious Fraud Office isn't touching it is because of the amount of revenue generated in the UK from the sport of Formula One. You know, if you've got, I don't know, 6 or 7 of the teams based in the UK, how many people that they employ, how much tax revenue that creates. The sport of Formula One itself is a UK registered company. You've got Sky TV, F1 TV. The number of people employed due to the industry of Formula One in the UK is massive, and therefore the amount of revenue it generates is massive. And therefore, I think the UK is not touching it. That in itself is fraudulent. That in itself is corruption. Why the FBI aren't? Well, you look at big money. You look at Liberty Media, billions. That you look at their cross links with all the financial institutions they're linked with, and who has got links with who, and who's going to be financially impacted when this sport gets taken to its knees. And that's why they're not touching it. That's the key. You know, it's not that it's not a crime. It's definitely a crime. It's 100%. It's a crime. But that you've got to look at the reasons why the crime is not being investigated by those that are tasked to investigate it. It is ridiculous. And you can all do this. You can just go onto Google. You can type in match fixing, sport fixing. I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video, and you can watch it. It will give you 10 examples of sport fixing. What happened in Formula One is sport fixing. It's a crime, and nobody's touching it. And the way it's been presented to you, oh yeah, well, all teams agreed to finish under green. Right, that it means nothing. This notion of this desire to finish under green means nothing. You know, somebody can mention that. You can all sit round the table and say, yeah, ideally this race finishes under green, and people can nod their heads and go, yeah. But you can't contrive it to make it that way. If circumstances pan out whereby it's not possible to finish under green, you can't go contriving it for it to finish under green, because you're manipulating the rules of the sport, you're breaking the rules of the sport, which makes it fixing the outcome of the sport. And that is what took place. So then, after, like I say, F1 TV, ahead of it taking place, set the narrative with what they showed you. Sky Sports F1 played their part in how they were describing what was taking place. All of the teams played their part in not calling out what was going on, not taking place in accordance with the rules of the sport. They just went with it. And we can go into depth about all these radio messages. They're not authentic. They're not authentic. And there's many ways we can pull them apart. We know for sure the FIA broke the rules of the sport. The FIA have tentatively admitted, yes, what took place was not right, but we accept that it was just somebody that was under pressure and got it wrong. The one event that they got wrong, that 198 Grand Prix before that, they didn't get it wrong. And every event since that, they've not got it wrong. But that one, yeah, we accept that they just got that one wrong. But It was all done in good faith, so move on. The stewards, the 4 stewards, still working there, acted corruptly, pretended that that was an acceptable application of the rules, which it's not. And then the media machine kicks in, conditioning you to believe that everything that took place was just a little bit, it just wasn't quite right. It was a bit compressed. It was a pressurized situation, and just one guy just got it a little bit wrong. But the other guy that won, well, he deserved it anyway. It was all okay. So it's time to move on now. That's the media machine. And they all did it. They all did it. They all parroted the narrative. Every form of motorsports media did it. No form of media has exposed it. And all of the social media contributors, they either complied with it because they're thinking of their own income, or in some cases they're just too fucking thick to realise. Some of them they're just retarded. Let's face it. Some of the people they don't know enough, and therefore they'll watch what happened. They'll listen to the likes of Brundle. They'll listen to what's coming out in the other media, and they'll just parrot it because they've not got a brain of their own to be able to dissect it and break it down. They're fucking retarded. Yes, some people are doing it just for money. So what they're trying to do is not offend anybody, so keep everybody happy by sitting on the fence. But some are doing it because they're corrupt. They know it's wrong, but they're just not going to call it out. Some are doing it because they're thick, and some are doing it because they just care more about money than conducting themselves with any sort of integrity. But you can look at. I'm going to just scroll down to a section on this. I recommend you actually go onto Wikipedia and just type in match fixing and have a good read of it, because there's plenty of examples and they're all good and they're all useful and they put it into perspective for you. But I just scroll down to this particular example, which is saying about the 2012 Summer Olympics, whereby in the badminton competition, some of the competitors they got to a certain stage in it where they were then intentionally losing matches so that they would then get an easier fixture in the knockout stages. And they're calling it the night of shame. Players made simple errors throughout the match despite booing and jeering from the crowd and warnings from the match umpire and tournament referee to cease and desist. The Badminton World Federation found the 4 pairs guilty of not using one's best efforts to win a match and conducting themselves in a manner that is clearly abusive or detrimental to the sport. So you can take that example for it, and this is just a tiny example, but the radio message from Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari said, "This is not my race, but I will have to race them. This is not fair." Do you mean it's not your race? Have you resigned yourself in that Grand Prix? Of all the competitors in Abu Dhabi decided, oh, we're not going to win this race. We're just going to let to see who wins out of Lewis or Max. It's not our race. Well, what are you doing then? Are you not giving your best efforts to win a sporting contest? Have you just said, no, the best what we can do in this race is come third because actually everybody in this race wants to just see who wins out of Lewis or Max? Is that how you conduct yourself in every Grand Prix that you go in racing? Oh yeah, I'll just go around a bit because we're only here just to see who's going to win out of Lewis or Max in this race. That's what you're doing. Is that sport? Is that sport manipulation? Is that you giving your best efforts to win a match? Because what are you trying to do? You're manufacturing something, you're contriving something, but that's not sport. That's manipulation. That's putting on a show. But there's this, so check out Wikipedia. And I'm going to put a link in the video description and watch that. That's going to give you 10 examples of sporting fixing controversies in history. Just have a look at them and you will see that this notion of an agreement between teams to produce a certain outcome is just it constitutes fixing, constitutes sports manipulation. That in itself is a crime. That in itself is a crime. And when you then drill down to the full depth of this to see who was involved, because it's not just Red Bull and it's not just the FIA, right? All teams are party to this because they were all complicit with it. Red Bull are likely to have gone. This notion of Red Bull played some clever cards. What they've done is, having got this complicit agreement from all the teams going, oh yes, we all agree that that would be a desirable outcome. Red Bull go and work out, right, this is how we're going to play this then. That's what they do. Okay, that is what they do, and some of you will be able to see that. Now, what I'm hoping that this video achieves is, I know it's going to attract comments from the brain dead that will try and argue that what I'm saying is not true, but it is true. Those of you that I do see your comments, and I can tell who's really intelligent and who isn't. I just hope that it's going to trigger things in you so that you can expand upon this and offer even more insight and greater perspective in terms of examples, because this is part of building towards demonstrating the true nature of this. So if you can come up with examples or better ways of articulating the true nature of what the nature of this notion of an agreement between teams, and share that with us all. I might pick up on some of the things you say and make a future video if there's better ways of articulating it than what this video has done. But yeah, have a look at these examples given on Wikipedia, and have a look at this video that I'm going to include in the link. And like I say, if using your knowledge and your ability to come up with either further examples or articulate it in a better way, then I look forward to those of you that are willing to do that. That'll do it for this one, and yeah, I'll bang on with the next one. Cheers.